Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back, brothers and sisters and viewers of IQRA TV. It's been a fascinating discussion so far. I've got two really eminent people with me. Brother Junaid Rahim.
Is he talking about us?
It can't be. Right? That you've been watching and listening to. We've got fascinating stories about their coming into the fold of Islam, how they came into the fold of Islam, what motivated and drove them to come into the fold of Islam. And we've heard from Brother Junaid about his journey so far. So can I ask Brother Muhammad Yusuf yourself as well? I mean, he was talking about he met somebody at a training camp, training, and that's he started getting an interest in Islam.
Yep.
Well, how did you begin your interest in Islam? I know you said you're a practicing Catholic,
yes.
Roman Catholic.
Yep.
You grew up a Roman Catholic in a very practicing family, and around 17, 18, 19, you started seeking questions.
Yes.
But where did that connection begin and how?
Okay. So I had been given a copy of the Quran.
Yes.
And keep it covered, keep it on a shelf. Yeah. When you take
When
it
you
to
said
read
6 months, you just left it there.
Absolutely, I did.
Right.
And it was almost any excuse not to start reading. And I used to go back to the office and it was a case of, have you started reading it yet? No, way too busy. Well, what were you doing last night, for example? Well, Coronation Street was on and I can't miss that. So, and it was literally any excuse. But I recall to this day that one Sunday, and it was raining outside, and this is before the age of mobile phones. This is how old I am. Before the age of mobile phones, I didn't know where my mates were. There was nothing on TV, and this book
Only
was...
3 TV channels?
There were in those days. There was none of this Sky nonsense back then, So this book was staring down at me, and I thought, do you know what? I think it's time. Time. So I went upstairs and I had a wash and came back downstairs and took the book off the shelf really carefully and unwrapped it and opened it up, and to my amazement it started with some very simple words. We all know what those words are. As we read the Quran now, we will say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. And I thought, what a great way to start a book, because that sets the mood for the rest of, certainly for the rest of this page. Brilliant way to start a book, pure genius. But as I read down the first page, and we all know what the first page of the Holy Quran is, it says Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, and in English that simply means praise be to Allah. Lord of the Alameen, the whole of creation. And mentally, when I read that line, it was almost like I had a pencil. I was like, tick, yep, I agree with that. Praise be to God, Lord of the whole creation. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim, the compassionate, the merciful. Tick, yep, I agree with that. Maliki Yawmiddin, master or owner of the Malik of the day of judgment. Yep, I agree with that. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. It is you alone that we worship. It is you alone that we turn to for help. Tick, tick. Brilliant.
Now that
Genius.
sentence right,
summed up.
for somebody who comes from another faith.
It was that sentence.
I can understand the first 3 or 4 sentences. But that one sentence.
It was that one.
Right.
This is the point I'm about to make.
Go on.
It was that sentence that set my mind racing. And I, for the first time, had acknowledgement that there is only one worthy of worship. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. You alone, talking to Allah, you alone are worthy of worship, and you alone are the only one that can help. And then you think, well, okay, help with what? Ihdina siratal mustaqim. Help to lead us down the straight path, the path of those who have earned favour, not those who have earned anger or those who have gone astray. Waladalin, those who have gone astray. So I was ticking down every line of that page, and as I got to the bottom of that page, I thought, this is genius. And I turned to the back of the book to see who'd written this thing, thinking this is amazing, who's the author? I didn't know then.
Right.
What I know now. Yeah, these are the words, Allah authored this, you know. And you cannot get more correct, you cannot get better than the rule book that's been authored by our Creator.
Did you at that time have any questions about comparing the Quran, which is, you know, the book provided by God, given by God, the words of Allah itself, to the Bible, which had seen different iterations over the years, and so, you know, through, you know, going back to the Trinity.
I'd heard from numerous sources that, and I've tested this and it's true. If you get versions of the Bible from different publishing houses, yeah, you can turn them over page by page, and they say quite different things.
Yep. Right, that's what.
Or rather, they say things in a way that can be interpreted differently. So I was thinking, well, okay, so who in this world has the, because it's seen as the Word of God, is the Bible, and the Christians will tell you this is the Word of God. So I was sat there thinking, well, who in this world then has the right to change the Word of God or to change its meaning? And the answer to that is perfectly simple. No one has the right to do that.
And that's what I mean, the comparison
has happened.
Where, it has happened in the Bible.
Yes.
Over the centuries.
Now, when you look at the Quran, you get any Quran from all over the world, different publishing houses. You turn them page by page, and you will get exactly the same on each one of those pages.
Exactly,
it is timeless. It has never been changed. It is unique in its structure, in its completeness. And as we know, Allah Himself said He will protect this, and He will make sure that this does not get changed. Inshallah.
So, I mean, coming back, obviously, your time when you became a Muslim, you know, obviously was a different age range to yours, Brother Junaid. So, I mean, you had you're around 27, 28. You were saying, how was your family structure at that time?
Okay.
Were you married? Would you have no?
No, I was not married.
You still close to your family?
Yep.
You know, as you say, you're very practicing Christians.
Yep.
You know, family. So how? When you went back and said to your mum or dad, if they're around, or your brothers and sisters, "Hey, I'm going to change."
This was some 6 months later.
Right. Yeah.
When I'd read the Quran, and I read it cover to cover, and it took about 6 months. And I have to say that there were some challenging concepts in there. There were some things that I found difficult to kind of get my head around and understand. But I used to go back and ask questions, and you know, by the grace of Allah, I got answers that made sense to me.
Right.
So it took about 6 months to complete the Quran. And when I had completed it, I thought to myself, I can't question any of this, because I believe in here that this is the truth, this is right, and this is what I believe, and this is what I want, and I want this in my life. So I thought, well, I better grow myself a beard, find myself a man dress, and find myself a mosque, and that's kind of what I did. And I was introduced to somebody in a mosque in Wakefield. Now, if you used to work in Wakefield, I'm just going to test now, how long ago was that?
Quite a while ago.
Quite a while ago, okay. So there was a gentleman who lived, and he worked in a shop very close to one of the mosques in Wakefield. It was in Agbrig in Wakefield.
Sufi Rashid.
Sufi Rashid Mughal.
May Allah bless him.
Who I came to love and adore like a father. Yeah, because he taught me.
Absolutely
he taught me all the things that I needed to know. And he did that with such love and he was such a careful man, and may Allah give him Jannah.
That's what I'm saying, Allah bless
for
him.
all of the works that he did, and he did it over years for hundreds and hundreds of people. And I've never yet met one person that has anything bad to say about that man.
Oh, definitely, as you say, may Allah give him the highest place in Jannah.
He took me under his wing, and he taught me. Now, I used to go out for 3 days at a time with Sufi Rashid Mughal into mosques.
In Jamaat?
Yeah.
Oh, mashallah, very good.
And this is where I did my learning initially. So I'll never forget the day when it was very early days, and he said, "I'm going to teach you how to pray." I said, "Great. Okay, where do we start?" And he said, "We start in the wuzu, yeah, and we wash, and we make sure that we're clean, and etc. etc. And then we went, we need to point this way because this is the way. This is Qibla. This is the direction towards Mecca, and we'll start the prayer and we'll say, Allahu Akbar."
Right.
Yeah. And he said, "Do that, do that." So I said, "Oh, okay, Allahu Akbar." And he said, "There's some bits that I'll teach you, but I want to teach you the most important part." He said, "Repeat these words after me." He said, "Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen." And I said, "No, I'm not going to say that. No chance." He said, Why not? You have to say that. This is your prayer." I said, "No, I will not." He said, "Why not?" I said, "Because I don't understand what the words mean. So tell me what the words mean, and I'll decide whether I want to say it or not."
So this
and he looked at me and he just said, "I think this might take longer than both of us had imagined, you know." So, and
that
it
was
did.
in St. Catherine Street, the old houses.
In the old house mosque on number 26, St. Catherine Street.
I remember.
More recently, of course, they've
Yeah.
knocked 3 houses into one
Yeah,
to create Zakaria Mosque, which is
It's
a
very nice
beautiful
mosque.
place.
It's a very nice
Alhamdulillah.
mosque. So I mean,
But this particular one was actually on Leeds Road in Bradford,
Right.
where I did my first prayer. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, it was.
So I mean, obviously, coming back to the same question that I asked Brother Junaidi, how did your family then respond to it?
Okay.
You know, because I mean, as a man, I think maybe have you come across many Muslim revert sisters?
Yes.
Because I think
Yes.
their experience is different. Maybe I'm just paraphrasing, maybe guessing, to a man who reverts to Islam. I'd like to bring it. I asked one of our Muslim sisters who reverts from Dewsbury to come along one day, and she said she would, but she's never managed to get here on time. Because that's one of the questions I want to ask. Sorry, I'll rephrase that. Never managed to get here because of all sorts of commitments that she's got.
Okay.
The question is, as a man, is the response and the reaction different? And maybe the reason I'm asking you, if you've experienced talking to Muslim sisters who are reverts, do they come up? Have they said that their experience is different? I mean, let's come back to yours. How was your experience with your family?
With my family? Okay. So what had happened over a period of 10 years is that my family had watched me slip away in terms of structure of faith. They'd watched me slip away. And no matter what they said to try and encourage me to come back, it was a case of no, I was on a journey and I turned my back and I stepped away. What they found when I accepted and embraced Islam is that I'd come back, but I'd come back to my faith in God with just a slightly different way of practicing.
Right.
But they recognized that this is the God of Abraham, this is the God of Adam, this is the God of Jesus, this is the God, it's the same God. They understood, and Allah, thank you Allah for putting that understanding in their hearts and minds, because that made it really easy for me to say, I've chosen my path, and my path is back to the same God.
So they didn't excommunicate you from the family?
Oh, no. Far from it. I love my parents, and my father's passed away, sadly, unfortunately, and I miss him. My mum's still with us, and I love her dearly. And my brothers, we lost one, unfortunately. He passed away, but I've still got
condolences for both losses.
That's right. Okay.
So I mean,
but I've still got family that are loving, caring people. And
what about your friends? Colleagues, people you work with.
Yep.
Obviously, Islamophobia was not as prevalent. Maybe there were a lot of people who were ignorant at that time.
Yeah.
Some of them were mystified. They probably didn't know what it meant to be a Muslim or who Muslims were.
Yes, yeah, there are elements of that. I mean, but my conversion was kind of after 9/11, not before it.
Oh, yeah.
And so, and only a fairly short while after, by all accounts. So there was a lot of anti-Muslim rhetoric and a lot of anti-Muslim feeling, I would say. and that was the biggest issue my parents had. And like Yusuf, I adore my parents; they're fantastic, you know, and I owe everything to them and Allah, but to my parents, they're wonderful. But their biggest issue was they were scared for me because of what was happening in the world, if you like. They weren't that concerned about the religious aspect, because the religious aspect is so in line, just as Yusuf says. It was the fear of, well, look what's happening in the world. Do you know what I mean? And again, if what you're doing is right, it shouldn't be affected by these things. But there were concerns from my parents, but it was more concerns for my safety than the spiritual aspect.
Right. So I mean, obviously, you are both got families of you, right? You got children, I presume.
Yes. Yeah.
Are your wives also practicing Muslims?
Yes.
Oh yes.
Right.
Yeah.
No, sorry, you did tell me at the beginning, before we went on air, that you have wives from the Asian subcontinent.
Yeah.
Haven't you,
Yes.
both of you? Right.
Yes.
And
Yes.
how old are your children?
Well, my children are 12, 11, and 6.
Right.
So relatively young, and they love Islam. I mean, it helps that the mother's got a huge amount of knowledge. You know, I'm trying to learn something every single day. Yusuf and I have put together a YouTube channel. We've put together a way of getting this information.
I was going to come to that in a while.
And they love the fact that Daddy's doing that.
Do they go to school in Wakefield,
Oh
obviously?
yes, yeah.
Yes.
And they have Muslim names.
Yep.
Right. And how do the other children respond to them? Because that could be quite challenging, maybe.
Yes.
I don't know.
It has been at times.
Right.
They all have Islamic names. One of the reasons I chose to change my name, when I found my wife and we got married, we decided to choose a surname rather than take my old surname. So we chose a surname to kind of take together, because we wanted the children that we hoped, inshallah, we were going to have to grow up absolutely knowing their faith, not having what might be considered a Christian name. And so, yeah, they have Islamic names. However, you know, I always find it's a little unfair. All the work that the lady does, but they have gone to me looks-wise, is extraordinary. So they're quite fair, shall we say. And it's weird how some people will respond and go, oh, and they'll get on for a long time. And then my son said fairly recently, he was chatting to somebody said something, and he went, well, I'm Muslim. And they were like, are you? And it never occurred to them because of the name, and it never occurred to them because of the skin colour. But he had to kind of reinforce it. But he said, I said, well, how did you feel? So I was incredibly proud, Dad. I thought fantastic. If they have an issue, they have an issue. I don't. They love the religion. They adore it. And alhamdulillah, it's amazing. It's wonderful.
Very good. Well, Yusuf, I mean,
My children, okay, I've got 2 daughters.
Right.
Their ages 25 and 20.
Right.
The 25-year-old is now married, and she has 2 children of her own, so I'm a granddad, alhamdulillah. Yes, they both have Muslim names. Yes, my grandchildren both have Muslim names. And my 2 daughters, one went to Wakefield Girls High School, and she wore hijab.
Right.
Yeah. My youngest daughter went to Silcoats School in Wakefield,
yes.
and she was the very first person in that school's history to wear hijab at school. And they pulled us to one side and said, should we be doing anything special? I said, no. Should we be treating her differently to everybody else? No. There's only one thing, and that's that if she chooses vegetarian diet, let her have a vegetarian diet.
Yes.
That's fine. Yeah. And
how-
other than
how
that,
was
just treat her normally like any other child.
Yeah, I mean, the school, the people responsible for the school may and do, in by and large, take into account the pupils' needs. How did she find fellow pupils? Because it's the other people who do bullying at the moment, for example. I mean, surprisingly, maybe about 4 years ago, there was a front page headline in the Sun of all the newspapers. Right?
Great paper, yeah.
Saying,
I can't remember the last time I read that.
I can't remember the last time I even touched it. But it actually was a very, very powerful tool for those who are fighting Islamophobia. And the front page headline was that 75% of bullying in Bradford district schools is anti-Muslim.
Yeah.
Right? In schools.
Yeah.
And I used to sit on the government's anti-Muslim hate crime advisory group, and that headline actually helped us to say to the government, what are you going to do about this? How are you going to tackle issues around anti-Muslim hate? Right? And you know, I mean, governments works very, very slowly, but it did work out. So that's why I'm asking.
Okay.
Children can be cruel.
Children are cruel.
Can be cruel.
That's just what they are when they grow up, and I know that because I used to be one, and I was exactly the same when I was at school. And things don't change from one generation to the next. You know, children are children, and their job is to push boundaries and to question one another. So her experience
wearing pupil in silk coats.
So she's got. You know, mashallah, I don't know where she gets it from, but she's very confident. She has a great personality.
Must be taking after, I'm not knowing the mother, I'm sure it's taking...
You're a bit of a wallflower.
Partly for the father,
I'm really scared all the time. So she's got an air of confidence about her. And she's got a real personality as well, so she can actually see the funny side in things that would actually possibly affect other people in a different way. So she was fine, you know, alhamdulillah, she stood her ground, and she just was who she is, and everybody thought she was fine, you know, she's a good girl. And my elder daughter, she talks about wearing hijab, and she talks about it as being a privilege.
I was going to...
This is Allah's privilege and blessing on women to be able to wear this, because, and she says, if you look at my dad walking down the street, that's me, you wouldn't normally guess at first glance that he's a Muslim. Yeah, I mean, he wears a beard.
She's identified easily.
But there are loads of hipsters at the moment. It's a trendy thing to wear a beard now amongst British guys. But she is immediately identifiable as a Muslim.
And
what
therefore,
she says,
if you look at the amount of victims of anti-Muslim hate crime in this country at the moment,
it's women.
Particularly in the last 2 years,
it's
mainly targeted Muslim women were easily identified as Muslim because they wear the hijab or the niqab. And that's something that we've been trying to... We've talked about this on this program a number of times, and you know, we spoke about this a few weeks ago. We've got very little time remaining, unfortunately. Let me turn to your other areas of sort of promoting Islam, and that is your YouTube channel.
Yes.
Which is known as Two White Muslims, by the way.
Yes.
So anybody who wants to learn more.
So that's TWO White Muslims. Two White Muslims.
Two White Muslims. If you go on YouTube, you've got 21 videos that you've uploaded.
Yeah, we started with 21 videos.
Oh, you started with 21.
Yeah, there's 90 or so there now.
Right. I mean, primarily you were saying that this was started to help others.
Yes.
Now, is that for other reverts who come back into Islam, or is it for people who want to ask questions about Islam?
Okay.
That they were afraid to ask.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, as I say, we've got very little time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we're going to have to do this very quickly.
I mean, fundamentally, it was to get out what we considered to be this is Islam. People tend to fear what they don't understand, and what that they fear, they tend to reject, and they reject the people that, and so it just causes backlash. It causes problems. And my brother Yusuf here often relays the fact that when you look in the press and you look in the media, the way people talk about this beautiful, perfect religion and the people who follow it, it's just not right. It's not the true Islam. It's not what Islam is all about. So we just kind of wanted to set the record straight and give people information in a way that we recognise we benefited from on our journey. So we wanted to put that out there. So we created initially the 21 video playlist, and we put, it's supported with computer generated imagery, and we wanted to make it as presentable as possible. Well, we're on it, so the rest of it has to be good. You know what I mean? And so we just wanted to make it as good as possible. Initially for non-Muslims and for reverts, what we found, and it's interesting that you asked the question, we get a lot of Muslims use it who want to ask questions that they maybe couldn't ask at the mosque or couldn't ask the dad because of the reaction they might get, and they just say, oh, there's certain things I took for granted. I didn't know that's what it meant. I didn't know that's why that happened. So we found that whilst it was initially aimed for non-Muslims, we've got a huge Muslim following, which is brilliant. So we're adding all the time content, which is...
I'm going to have to stop you there because we're coming to the end. I mean, there are some very fundamental, important questions I wanted to ask. And I keep saying this every week. We run out of time too quickly. We need a longer program at times. Because I know one of the questions that I have is when you come into touch with Muslims and Muslims, mainly, as I say, in this country, from the Asian subcontinent. Islam is one perfect religion, as you say, but the Muslims who are practicing it, and their way of life is slightly different.
Yes.
So sometimes there's a contradiction.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about that as well.
Okay.
I'm going to have to stop you there.
It's such a great question as well.
It's a great question. I want to answer that question.
It's a huge question.
It's a very easy one to answer.
Sometimes we who are born Muslims, don't really follow how we should be following Islam. I'm really sorry. Inshallah, we'll come back to this because, as I say, fascinating discussion. Thank you very much for watching. May Allah be with you. Inshallah, I'll see you next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah be with you till next week and thereafter as well. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So we really hope you enjoyed that.
For the 21 video series, everything you ever wanted to know about Islam and the Muslim culture,
but couldn't be bothered to ask,
click the link in the top right of the screen.
Also, please subscribe by clicking the red button below if you haven't already done so. We want to reach as many people as we possibly can.
Thank you once again for your support, and we'll see you in the next video.
Assalamu alaikum
Wa rahmatullahi
wa barakatuh. Bismillah.